Is there anything that would get you to jump to the National Football League?
Not whatsoever. What transpired with my son last year, ain't no way in the world.
Deion Sanders just went on national television and said something no one expected. A Hall of Famer, a two-time Super Bowl champion, publicly declaring he will never coach in the NFL, and the reason why will leave you absolutely speechless. The fall that shook the NFL. On February 6, 2026, Deion Primetime Sanders appeared on ESPN's First Take and delivered a statement that sent shockwaves through the entire football world. When host Shea Pepler asked the Colorado Buffaloes head coach whether anything could entice him to make the jump to the NFL, Sanders didn't hesitate. His answer was swift, it was definitive, and it carried the weight of a father who had watched his son endure what he considered an unforgivable injustice.
Is there anything that would get you to jump to the National Football League?
Not whatsoever. What transpired with my son last year, ain't no way in the world. No, I don't have a... Thank you, Lord.
Let that settle in for just a moment. Deion Sanders, the man who was reportedly in conversations with Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones about a potential head coaching role just 1 year earlier, was now telling the world that the league had done something so egregious to his family that he could never bring himself to walk into an NFL building in a coaching capacity again. And the thing about that pause, that dramatic, pregnant silence that hung in the air after his initial statement, Deion later revealed was not a sign of him losing his composure or searching for words.
When I stop like that,
That's to keep you from saying you don't need to say.
When I stop like that, that don't mean I'm lost for words. That means God said, I said, you're a head coach now. You can't do that now. You can't talk like that. You can't say that. I know you're comfortable with your brothers here, but you can't say that.
That right there was the moment that crystallized everything. The pause was not confusion. It was restraint. It was a father biting his tongue because he knew that what he truly wanted to say about what the NFL did to his son Shedeur Sanders would have consequences. And that restraint, that deliberate choice to hold back, tells you everything you need to know about just how deeply this situation has wounded the Sanders family. Now, to fully understand why Deion Sanders is this upset, why he is this emotionally charged, why he is willing to burn every single bridge he has with the National Football League, you have to understand the story of his son, Shedeur Sanders. And you have to understand just how dramatic, how unexpected, and how unprecedented his fall in the 2025 NFL Draft truly was. Shedeur Sanders was not just some run-of-the-mill college quarterback hoping to hear his name called on draft day. This was a young man who had followed his father from Jackson State University all the way to the University of Colorado. And in his time with the Buffaloes, Shedeur put together numbers that would make any NFL scout sit up and take notice. We are talking about a 74.1% completion rate in 2024, the highest in all of FBS football, along with 4,134 passing yards, 37 touchdowns, and only 10 interceptions. He led Colorado to their first 9-win season since 2014. By virtually every measurable standard available to scouts and analysts, Shedeur Sanders was one of the top quarterback prospects in the entire 2025 draft class. ESPN's Mel Kiper ranked him as the second best quarterback in the class. Multiple mock drafts had him going in the top 5. Some even projected him in the top 2 alongside Cam Ward. This was not a fringe prospect. This was a player that the football world expected to be a franchise-altering selection in the first round of the NFL draft. And then, when the 2025 NFL draft rolled around in April in Detroit, Michigan, something happened that nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming. The first round came and went. 2 quarterbacks were selected. Cam Ward went first overall to the Tennessee Titans, and Jackson Dart went 8th to the New York Giants. But Shedeur Sanders' name was never called. The second round came and went, and still nothing. Tyler Show was selected by the New Orleans Saints. The third round arrived, and the Cleveland Browns, a team that had interviewed Shedeur at the Combine, attended his pro day at Colorado, and even flew him in for a private dinner, used their pick on Dylan Gabriel instead. Round 4 passed, round 5 began, and finally, with the 144th overall pick in the 5th round, the Cleveland Browns selected Shedeur Sanders, a projected top 5 pick, a potential franchise quarterback, selected in the 5th round, behind 5 other quarterbacks, the same team that had already drafted another quarterback 2 rounds earlier. Let the magnitude of that sink in. As the rounds ticked by and Shedeur's name continued to go uncalled, the cameras caught the Sanders family sitting together, watching in real time as their world shifted beneath them. And Shedeur himself, displaying the kind of composure that belied the gut-wrenching disappointment he had to be feeling in that moment, took to social media and addressed the situation with a maturity that went beyond his years.
We all didn't expect this, of course, but I feel like with God, anything possible, everything possible. I don't feel like this happened, for no reason. All this is of course, fuel to the fire. And under no circumstance, we all know this shouldn't have happened. But we understand we're on the bigger and better things. Tomorrow's the day. We're going to be happy regardless. Legendary.
But behind the cameras, behind the carefully composed social media posts, behind the faith-filled words and the brave faces, the Sanders family was reeling. And as the shock began to subside and the questions started pouring in from every corner of the sports world, one question rose above all others. What in the world happened? How did a consensus top 5 quarterback prospect fall all the way to the 144th pick? Was this simply a matter of teams not believing in his talent? Or was something far more sinister at play? The blackball allegations. In the days and weeks that followed Shedeur Sanders' historic slide in the 2025 NFL Draft, the football world did not simply move on to the next story. No, this was not one of those situations where the news cycle chewed up a controversy and spat it out after 48 hours. Instead, what happened was the exact opposite. The whispers got louder, the accusations got bolder, and some of the most prominent figures in the history of professional football began making claims that, if true, would represent one of the most disturbing acts of collusion the league has ever seen. The most explosive allegation came from NFL Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson, who claimed that a reliable source told him the league had issued a directive to all 32 teams, and the alleged directive was as chilling as it was blunt. According to Dickerson, the message from the league was crystal clear. Don't draft him. Do not draft him. We're going to make an example out of him. Dickerson also claimed that the Cleveland Browns were specifically pressured to be the ones to finally select Shedeur, suggesting that even his eventual destination was part of a calculated plan. Now, let that allegation truly settle in your mind for a moment. A Pro Football Hall of Famer is claiming, on the record, that the National Football League, the most powerful and profitable sports organization on the planet, actively conspired to sabotage the career of a 22-year-old quarterback. Not because he lacked talent, not because he couldn't play, but because they wanted to, in Dickerson's words, make an example out of him. And Dickerson was far from the only voice making these kinds of claims. Boomer Esiason, the legendary former quarterback and current radio host on WFAN's Boomer and Geo, reported that multiple NFL owners had instructed their coaching staffs to remove Shedeur Sanders from their draft boards entirely, not lower his ranking, not push him back a few rounds, remove him completely. And the reason reportedly given by these owners? They considered him entitled. ESPN's Stephen A. Smith, one of the most influential voices in sports media, drew a direct comparison to the Colin Kaepernick situation, calling it Kaepernick all over again, suggesting that what happened to Shedeur bore the unmistakable hallmarks of the same kind of blackballing that effectively ended Kaepernick's career. Smith revealed that he had received text messages from people inside the industry labeling the situation Kaepernick-level collusion. And then there was Deion Sanders himself, who did not hold back in expressing what he believed had happened behind closed doors. In a YouTube video that went viral, analysis suggested Deion had compared the alleged meeting of NFL owners to a Ku Klux Klan type of clandestine meeting, alleging that all 32 NFL team owners, their executives, and Commissioner Roger Goodell conspired to embarrass, humiliate, and sabotage both himself and his son on draft day. Prominent public figures amplified this narrative. Former Congressman Jamal Bowman argued that the slide stemmed from fear of strong black men who come from means and have a strong sense of themselves, pointing to Shedeur's style, his gold chains, his confidence, his refusal to shrink himself for anyone. ESPN's Ryan Clark and Peter Rosenberg highlighted what they saw as the disproportionate policing of black athletes' confidence, labeling it brash when the same traits in other athletes are celebrated. Even the President of the United States weighed in. Donald Trump publicly questioned whether NFL owners were stupid and urged that Sanders be picked immediately, adding his own considerable platform to the growing chorus of voices that saw something deeply wrong with how this draft had played out. The controversy grew so intense that a fan from Georgia, identified as John Doe, filed a $100 million federal lawsuit in Atlanta, alleging violations of the Sherman Antitrust Act through team collusion, racial discrimination under the Civil Rights Act, and consumer fraud for misleading fans about a fair draft process. But not everyone was buying what the conspiracy theorists were selling. not by a long shot. And it is critically important that we examine these counter-arguments with the same thoroughness that we afforded the blackball allegations, because the truth, as it so often does, likely resides somewhere in the complicated middle ground between these two competing narratives. NFL legend Chris Carter came out forcefully against the collusion narrative, stating there was absolutely no collusion, and accusing Deion and Shedeur of making too much noise off the field and overplaying their hand throughout the entire pre-draft process. NFL agent Lee Steinberg called conspiracy theories nonsense, while ESPN's Albert Breer emphasized that teams simply didn't view Sanders as a first-round pick. The MMQB framed the entire saga as predictable and avoidable, not blackballing, but the entirely foreseeable consequence of a series of miscalculations. And there were legitimate on-field concerns that scouts had identified well before the draft. Analysts pointed to Shedeur's 20.1% pressure-to-sack rate, the highest in the nation, his average time to throw of 3 seconds, and questions about his arm strength and athleticism being not elite. Joel Klatt, one of the most respected football analysts in the country, noted that Sanders wasn't processing information quick enough behind Colorado's subpar offensive line. Off the field, the concerns were equally damning. Shedeur had skipped the NFL Combine drills, the Senior Bowl, and the East-West Shrine Game. Reports emerged that his interviews with teams were, in some cases, disastrous. Stories of wearing headphones during meetings, failing to install plays correctly, and reacting poorly to questions about his interceptions. One executive told Colin Cowherd that Sanders sandbagged interviews with teams he didn't want to play for. And then there was Deion's own role in the debacle. Executives anonymously told USA Today that Deion's public threats of an Eli Manning scenario and his boasts about Shedeur's ability to change an NFL franchise were viewed as overstepping, creating a reality show atmosphere that teams wanted absolutely nothing to do with. One executive was blunt. His dad's involvement hurt him. Chris Broussard, appearing on First Things First, may have offered the most sobering assessment of all when the Pittsburgh Steelers passed on Shedeur. Broussard concluded, "When the Steelers did not take him, I was like floored. There's only one conclusion. They don't think he's that good." And even Stephen A. Smith, the same man who had drawn the Kaepernick comparison, offered his own nuanced take on the complexity of the situation.
That's prime time we're talking about here, who is unquestionably one of the greatest athletes in American history, if not the world. That may not be his son, but that don't make his son a scrub. Here's what it does make his son, however. It makes his son an individual that needs to be aware of his circumstances, needs to be aware of the fact that you are primetime Deion's son.
The truth, as messy and uncomfortable as it may be, is that this story does not have a clean, simple, black and white answer. There are elements of legitimate talent evaluation. There are elements of self-inflicted wounds. And there are, undeniably, elements that raise deeply troubling questions about how the most powerful sports league in the world treats outspoken black families who refuse to shrink themselves to make billionaire owners comfortable. The aftermath and proving them all wrong. As if the unprecedented draft slide wasn't humiliating enough for the Sanders family, the universe decided to pile on with one final indignity during draft weekend. In what can only be described as one of the cruelest and most tasteless pranks in NFL draft history, Shedeur Sanders received a phone call during day 2 of the draft from someone claiming to be New Orleans Saints general manager Mickey Loomis. The call was later revealed to have been orchestrated by Jax Ulbrich, the 21-year-old son of Atlanta Falcons defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich, who somehow obtained Shedeur's private number and impersonated one of the most powerful executives in professional football on what was supposed to be one of the most important days of Shedeur's life. The Atlanta Falcons released a statement confirming the identity of the prankster, and the NFL launched an investigation into the incident. Ulbrich later apologized on Instagram, writing, "I'm so sorry I took away from your moment. It was selfish and childish." Shedeur, to his credit, handled the situation with remarkable grace, saying the act was childish, but moving past it. And when TMZ caught Deion at the airport after the draft weekend and asked if he was happy with how things turned out, Coach Prime, ever the showman, even in his most difficult moments, simply smiled and repeated,
"Hey, it's good to see you, man. Hey, now that the dust has settled, are you happy with how things turned out?"
God bless you, man. You know how good God is?
I know, God is good.
You know how good God is?
You happy, man?
God is so good.
Hey, do you forgive the prankster?
God is so good, man.
Okay, man. Thanks very much, buddy. We need hard knocks, bro. We need hard knocks.
Now, here is where this story begins to transform from one of controversy and heartbreak into something far more powerful. A story of redemption, resilience, and a young man using the very thing that was supposed to destroy him as the fuel that would elevate him. Shedeur Sanders arrived in Cleveland as a 5th-round pick, entering a quarterback room that included veterans Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and the injured Deshaun Watson, along with fellow rookie Dillon Gabriel, who had been drafted 2 rounds ahead of him. He was, by every conventional metric, the lowest man on the totem pole, 3rd string, an afterthought, the very thing those who allegedly conspired against him wanted him to be. But Shedeur Sanders is, after all, his father's son. And if there is one thing that the Sanders family does better than any family in professional sports, it is proving people wrong. From the very first days of mini camps and OTAs, Shedeur impressed coaches and teammates alike with his ball placement, his field awareness, and his quick release. The same young man who had been labeled unprofessional and disinterested during pre-draft evaluations was showing up to work earlier than anyone else and leaving later than everyone else. When Gabriel suffered a concussion in week 12, the door finally opened, and Shedeur walked through it with the quiet confidence of a man who had been waiting for precisely this moment his entire life. In his first season, starting the final 7 games, Shedeur posted a 3-4 record with 1,400 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions, earning a Pro Bowl selection as a replacement, the first for a Browns quarterback since Derek Anderson in 2008. His jersey became the top-selling among all 2025 rookies, surpassing even the #1 overall pick Cam Ward. In an exclusive interview with the Cleveland Browns, Shedeur reflected on the journey with a level of maturity that silenced even his harshest critics.
I never thought I'd hear that.
No, well, it's true.
Not a few months ago I wouldn't think of that. But I know I have it in me, but it's just, I'm just thankful that I was able to showcase it.
You certainly did.
Shedeur also demonstrated a remarkable absence of bitterness when discussing fellow rookie quarterbacks who were drafted ahead of him, showing the kind of emotional intelligence that separates the great ones from the merely talented.
Sure.
That's not kind of like my character, and that's not kind of what I wish on somebody, because out of all the quarterbacks, we all young, we all chasing our goals, chasing our dreams. So it's to have some type of spite that somebody else is in a position that you're not in, I don't think that's a good thing.
Right.
So that's when, when mentally I got in that place and have that type of understanding.
And through it all, through the draft slide, through the allegations, through the prank call, through the skeptics and the doubters and the anonymous executives leaking negative reports, Deion Sanders stood tall on national television and did what any father would do. He bragged about his boy.
How do you analyze your son, Shedeur? Man, I'm proud of him. I'm happy for him. He's accomplished something I didn't do even in his first year. It took me 2 years, 3 years. My 3rd year I made the Pro Bowl. But I'm just proud of him. People have no idea of what he's truly gone through. Yeah. You just seeing what's on stage. Yeah. You never see behind the curtains. I know what's behind the curtains. I know all the bull junk that transpired, but I'm so darn proud of him as a man, and he's standing on his faith, he's standing on his belief. And
when asked how he personally weathered the storm, how the Sanders family survived what was arguably the most challenging year in their collective lives, Deion didn't flinch, didn't waver, didn't show an ounce of self-pity. Instead, he delivered a message that was equal parts defiance, faith, and unshakable family loyalty. And when pressed on what he wanted the world to learn about the Sanders family, what message he wanted to send to everyone who had written them off, dismissed them, or actively worked against them, Deion delivered perhaps the most powerful line of the entire interview. As it stands today, the Shedeur Sanders saga is far from over. He is preparing for what could be a defining 2026 season with the Cleveland Browns under new head coach Todd Monken, where he will compete with Dillon Gabriel and the returning Deshaun Watson for the starting role. The $100 million federal lawsuit alleging collusion and racial discrimination remains pending. No formal NFL investigation into the blackballing allegations has been confirmed, but the court of public opinion continues to render its verdict every single day on social media, in barbershops, in churches, and in living rooms across America. Deion Sanders has made his position abundantly clear. He is staying at Colorado, he is never coaching in the NFL, and he is channeling every ounce of the pain, the anger, and the disillusionment from his son's draft experience into building something special with the Buffaloes. Shedeur, meanwhile, has taken a different approach. He asked his father to stay away from Brown's training camp to minimize distractions, explaining, "I want to get where I want to go, then for him to see me, a statement that speaks volumes about a young man determined to forge his own path outside the shadow of his legendary father and outside the narrative that others have tried to impose on him. Whether the allegations of blackballing are ultimately proven true, whether the $100 million lawsuit results in any meaningful accountability from the league, or whether this entire episode is eventually understood as a complicated collision of talent doubts, personality clashes, family dynamics, and systemic biases, one thing is certain: the story of Shedeur Sanders and the 2025 NFL Draft will be remembered as one of the most controversial, emotionally charged, and culturally significant moments in the history of professional football. And if Shedeur Sanders does what his father believes he is capable of, if he silences every single doubter and proves that the 144th pick was the steal of the draft, then those 31 teams that passed on him won't just have egg on their face. They'll have to answer the question that Deion Sanders has been asking all along. Was it talent or was it something else? What do you think? Was Shedeur Sanders truly blackballed by NFL owners? Or did the Sanders family's approach to the draft process bring this on themselves? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, hit that subscribe button, and make sure to turn on notifications because this story is far from over. We'll keep you posted on every twist and turn as the 2026 NFL season approaches. Until next time.